Zimbabwe appears to be embarking on a new path in international relations in response to the Trump administration's imposition of an 18% tariff on Zimbabwean exports. President Emmerson Mnangagwa responded by suspending tariffs on US imports. The ZANU-PF government has also announced it will start to compensate white farmers for land sieges during the land reform programs, and it expressed support for Afrikaners in South Africa. Well, today we are joined by advocate Simba Jatando from the Zimbabwe anti-sanctions movement to delve into these changes and talk about the remaining sanctions on Zimbabwe. Hi, Simba. So nice for you to join us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So why the sudden shift in Zimbabwe's foreign policy?
The shift has taken place quite some time ago. It took place when the new dispensation, we call it the Second Republic, here in Zimbabwe, where President Mnangagwa took over. It is an acknowledgement of past mistakes and a desire to develop the country to reach what Zimbabwe is aspiring to reach, which is its goals for 2030. The whole country is geared towards that. And to get to where we want to become, we have to fix where we've come from. We have to fix the mistakes that were made. And so one of those mistakes was the land reform took place. And for Zimbabwe to be accepted again into the global financial system, we have to address that issue. You cannot simply go about the process as it happened when it comes to land. Taking land without compensation is madness, and it caused financial ruin to Zimbabwe. And we're trying to redress that. And one of the ways you can redress that, and the ways in which the government has decided to do so, is by compensating the affected farmers for the improvements that they had made over a long period of time to the land that they occupied, the land that they owned.
So has that process started of land compensation?
The process started some time back. I think we just had a tranche of it's going in tranches. So recently there's a tranche of about 3.1 million. The target is about just under $4 billion US in compensation. Quite a lot of money has been paid. I think it was 3.1 in the past 2 weeks. About 2 years ago or a year ago, I'm not sure exactly the date, but there was quite a significant payment up to, I think it was about 10 million that was made. Quite a lot has been, and again, these are tranches as the government goes about their program and their policies in compensating the affected farmers.
Well, can we look at this relationship with the United States? So there's been this overture from your president. So what is Zimbabwe trying to achieve here?
Well, Zimbabwe is trying to create a strong relationship with Washington. It's an overture to attract investment from the United States. We already have a system. I looked at the statistics. Sorry, Lynn, I don't have them in front of me.
Mhm.
But I really do know that Zimbabwe, exports a lot more to the American market than it imports. So we have this situation, this unique trade relationship, where we're selling more to America, in in part because of the Zimbabwe's vast mineral resource than we're buying from America. It does not make any economic sense to tariff American goods, just from a business case. But from a political case, it's, to drop our guard and say, look, we want to do business with America. We want a good relationship with America. I've been to America. I know when I was a student, for back jobs I did when I was still a law student at Rhodes University. I think it's a wonderful country. We are looking forward to turning the page with America. We've turned the page in many ways with the European Union and with the UK. And as far as Western countries, it's just the United States that's left. And I think that's where the president's mind is when he made that overture.
Well, actually, new sanctions were imposed by the US on the 4th of April on the president, his wife, officials, and 3 businesses. So is Zimbabwe hoping that they could lift those sanctions?
Well, yes, the hope is that those sanctions will be removed. I think it's important also to mention that last year, um, the executive orders, this is under Biden, President Biden, he removed the 3 executive orders, which were the strongest form of sanctions on Zimbabwe. Those have gone. And there is a new sanctions, they call them sanctions program, US sanctions program on Zimbabwe, which is limited to the individuals that you've just mentioned. Um, and I think there was a discussion of having the Magnitsky sanctions applied to Zimbabwe as well. So it's a different sanctions program, a limited sanctions program. I think someone in the American embassy, and it was not the ambassador, it was, or the previous ambassador, there's a new lady ambassador, um, was speaking of this as an opportunity for greater relationship between Zimbabwe and the United States. Because, albeit sanctions, they're not as strong. And we can work with that for now.
So Washington officials are expected in Zimbabwe soon. Have you got any details about that?
Yes, they are expected. I can't speak on behalf of the diplomats involved. I am aware of that. I do speak very closely with the Zimbabwean government on various issues. On the sanctions issue, I'm one of the experts that has been advising them. One of many. But what I can anticipate is uh, a strong effort to build on the relationship that we have at the moment. I mean, they dropped a large number of sanctions on Zimbabwe already, which was a positive thing. It was celebrated in the country. And the overtures that have been made, we're expecting that when that engagement does take place, a lot of business can be done between the 2 countries and the 2 people.
Well, an event is next week at the World Bank meeting in Washington, where I have heard that the Zimbabwean government might be meeting Trump officials on the sidelines.
Yes, that would be very exciting. Very, very exciting. I hope that goes well. Um, it would be interesting to see who who will be involved in that, because I mean, there's still discussion taking place. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure exactly who in the Trump administration would be in that meeting. I don't know if it would be Rubio himself, the Secretary for Security, the Secretary for State, sorry. I don't know if he'll be involved, but at that meeting. But yeah, it's a very exciting time. Yeah, we are looking forward to that. The country is, it's quite interesting you mentioned that. On my way to every morning, I go to the gym and I pass by the ambassador's residence, the US ambassador's residence, and I saw a lot of activity. Um, of our government going there. So it was quite interesting. It's exciting times.
Was this in Pretoria or Harare?
Harare.
Oh,
Yeah, here in Harare, there's a lot of security and the Zimbabwean officials going to see the ambassador. So that was good to see. Things are happening.
well, at the moment, South Africa has very testy relationship, if I can call it that, with the US. So, what kind of role could Zimbabwe play within the SADC context for a better relationship between Washington and SADC countries, including South Africa?
Oh, good question. Very complex question, difficult to unpack, but I'll try. The official position that ZANU-PF has taken in relation to the relationship between the United States and South Africa is to stand back and allow those two countries to engage with each other, and allow them to create a relationship that they would like to create for themselves. We don't want to interfere, and that position was set out by the spokesperson for ZANU-PF, Mr. Mnangagwa. He was very clear and adamant about that we as Zimbabwe, we are going to do what's best for Zimbabwe and speak for Zimbabwe with our relationship with the United States and also with our relationship with South Africa. So we are not trying in any way to interfere with that relationship. But we are alive to the events that are taking place in South Africa. Zimbabwe has, obviously a strong trade relationship with South Africa, and we're similar people. We're similar history, and we are also navigating a different phase of our own relationship with South Africa. Things are changing on the ground on both sides of the border. So it is a very tricky time. It's a testing time, and in our view, I think I might be coming close to your next question here when it comes to some of the people in South Africa who are interested in doing business and coming into the Zimbabwean market. Our position is that Zimbabwe is, it's an official position that we are a friend to all and an enemy to none. That much is hammered home every time we engage with the international community, that we want to be friends with as many people as possible because we have to develop our country. We can't develop it as an island.
African countries often find themselves between these two blocks, where South Africa says it's non-aligned and then they're not perceived to be. What kind of role does it want to play between United States on the one side, Russia and China on the other side?
Zimbabwe has also got that the non-aligned. They were part of the non-aligned movement, as it was called during the Cold War, and we seek strong relationships with everybody. Zimbabwe really has a strong relationship with, or stable relations with the East, the global East, if you want to call it that, with China and Russia, and we've been working on creating that relationship with the EU, which is happening. With the UK, we've got very strong historical relationship with the UK. In part, obviously, I mean that's a historical. You've got a lot of the people in in Zimbabwe who are descendants of the United Kingdom. A large number of people, and that will always be close, and I think it's becoming closer, and it's a good thing. The current UK ambassador to Zimbabwe is doing a great job. So what we want is to have that with America, and that has been, I think that's why we've had those. I'm going back, but that's why we've had those overtures. That's where we want to be. We want to be, we're in the middle. We are trying to create relationships with everyone because we need everyone to grow our economy and to get us to our vision of 2030.
Well, you've been fighting against sanctions for a long time, your movement. So what difference could it make to Zimbabweans' lives? Because there were times where there was inflation that was sky high. What kind of difference would it make on the ground if Zimbabwe gets this right with the US?
Well, the most important thing that we'd like, the change that would happen if we get it right, as you put it, with America, is the access to credit lines and corresponding back access. My dad's a banker. And I know, incidentally, I think it's a story that I have to mention. When I was at school, my father was working for Barclays Bank, and he was asked, he was told it was around where the land reform was taking place, the land invasions were taking place. He said, "No, look, if we do this, it's going to collapse the banks," and it collapsed the banks. And a lot has happened. That's all in the past. Like I said, we're trying to build for the future. If the sanctions, and many of them have been removed, and now they're removed, it's not just about sanctions. You've got people are self-censoring or self-sanctioning. We need to create those relationships with American financial institutions so you can get access to loans to buy goods, to buy American goods that we need also to develop. America produces a lot of equipment that can be used here in Zimbabwe. We're talking about agricultural equipment. We're talking about mining equipment, road construction equipment. It is so much that we could use from America. So it benefits America when we have these relationships created. That's what we want to do. Other countries have, yes, but America is still the biggest economy in the world. And when we don't have them participating the way they would like them to participate, it's not to our benefit. We're a small country, much smaller than obviously America. But we believe that there's a lot of opportunity for America here, a lot of opportunity. And removing those restrictions is an opportunity for them too.
What kind of deal could you guys put on the table that would be acceptable to the Trump administration in terms, what is it, of minerals?
Well, yes, Zimbabwe has got the highest concentration of mineral wealth per capita of any place on the planet. And we're not just talking about any minerals. We're talking about the minerals of the future. We're talking about lithium, which is obviously going to be important for electronic vehicles and the new, the green future that everyone speaks about. So we've got that. With a lot of turmoil that has taken place in the global financial system, gold is where many people go to, and Zimbabwe is quite rich in that too. There's a lot of mineral wealth. Besides, I could go into steel. Zimbabwe is poised to become the biggest steel producer, and steel will always be important for where we're going as human beings living on this planet. So yes, there's so much opportunity. Again, and the other thing is that Zimbabwe, albeit landlocked, is land linked. Zimbabwe is right in the middle of SADC, and all roads, when it comes to trade routes throughout the region, pass through Zimbabwe at one point, whether it's by air or by land. We are strategically important. South Africa has got the ports. It's got the biggest port there in Durban. It's got ports in Cape Town, which is not used as much, and that they use that for trade with China, mostly the port in Durban, also with America, but very strong trade with China there. But all of those ports, when you have those goods going in or out of South Africa, going into the region, have to go through Zimbabwe. So our road construction is important for the entire SADC, where you have Malawi, Congo, Zambia, Tanzania wanting to access the ocean. They're going to go through Zimbabwe to get to South Africa and access each other. Mozambique trading with Angola, for instance, have to go into Zimbabwe. So the president has focused on road construction as his big thing. We're using mostly South African contractors. There is room for American contractors there. That's something that I know Americans are very good at doing, and that's something that they could the space that they could enter into. Our roads do need a lot of work and are very important to trade with the region. So that's definitely something that I'm sure that will come up in their meetings.
The other interesting development is the declaration by ZANU-PF that Afrikaners are Africans. Where does this stem from?
There has been a lot of talk, this is the most polite way I can put it, about the role that the Afrikaner community plays in Africa and whether they actually belong to Africa. And that debate is taking place in South Africa. And it's, in my view, a very unfortunate thing that debate even needs to take place. And the debate really has been in South Africa that Afrikaners do not belong to South Africa, and if the threat that they are facing and experiencing in South Africa is too much for them to handle, they must accept Donald Trump's and Elon Musk's, they link the two, accept their offer for refugee status in the United States. That is the debate that is taking place in South Africa. And Zimbabwe's position, and I think rightly so, was, well, we have already a significant number of Afrikaners in Zimbabwe. We have, last I checked, was 1% of the Zimbabwean population is ethnically Afrikaner. So we have our own Afrikaner community. And in our view, the Afrikaner people belong in Africa. They are Africans just like everyone else. We reject, and it's something that I feel very strongly about because I've written about it several times, the suggestion otherwise that they're not African, as African as I am. And our president said that Afrikaners belong, and we want to do business with the Afrikaner community in South Africa who would like to come to Zimbabwe for whatever reason. Whether it's because they've got their troubles in South Africa or not. We want business. We want investment. We want Afrikaners to do business in Zimbabwe, like we'd like Americans to do business in Zimbabwe. Like we would like anyone from the East to do business in Zimbabwe, so we can grow the economy. That is our position. It is not. I do understand some people in the ANC may feel that it's because we are undermining the ANC's position. I disagree with that. I actually wrote about it. I mentioned it in the MoneyWeb article that came out yesterday. I said that, well, look, it's upsetting some people in South Africa, in the ANC and other radical left groups, your EFFs and MK party, that feel that Zimbabwe is selling out. We're not. We're accepting the reality on the ground. It has been for a very long time that Afrikaners belong in Africa, and that will never change. And to add to that, I personally reject the Kill the Boer song that has been legalized in South Africa. As a lawyer, I don't understand it. It's obvious incitement to violence. You cannot get more direct incitement to violence than singing about shooting and killing an ethnic minority. It boggles the mind how that cannot be seen as incitement to violence. And the position that our president has made, something I support him in, is there's no such thing as a white farmer or a black farmer. There's just farmers here in Africa. And anything else is hate speech. And we reject it. So I think that meeting between the Afrikaner community and the president was important because it's at the right position. That I think that we, Zimbabwe, want to be the adult in the room and accept Afrikaner community as part of this beautiful continent that we share.
Well, so much, Adana. That was very interesting, all your insights. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, I really appreciate it and I enjoyed it.